Okay, we've all seen those chunky running shoes. You know, the ones that have a good inch or two on their outsole. They make you look taller, they look super sporty, and shoe companies promise that these shoes will revolutionize the way you run. They're called Maximalist running shoes, and you'd be forgiven for thinking that the extra cushioning reduces the risk of sustaining a running injury. But does this actually hold up to scientific scrutiny? Well, not exactly. Not only is there insufficient evidence to support this claim, there is evidence to suggest the exact opposite. Maximalist running shoes might actually increase the risk of experiencing an injury. This sounds counterintuitive, but let me explain. The idea behind adding a lot of cushioning to shoes is that the cushioning should absorb some of the impact forces generated when we repeatedly strike our foot against a hard surface, as we do when we run. This should minimize the forces that the body experiences while running, which is linked to a lower risk of developing injuries. Despite this intuition, there's not enough evidence to actually support this thinking. Although research about this subject is limited, there's mounting evidence that runners experience the same force when they wear maximalist running shoes as they do when they wear traditional ones, and thus their risks of experiencing injuries remain the same between the two types of shoes. 3 separate experiments from 2016, 2019, and 2021 found no significant difference in the forces that runners felt in maximalist shoes compared to the forces they felt in traditional ones. Most damagingly, a critical appraisal on this subject investigated 5 case-controlled studies and unearthed an additional 2 studies, both from 2018, that, surprise surprise, observed no significant differences in forces when runners wore maximalist shoes compared to when they wore traditional ones. Some studies have even found that maximalist shoes are associated with higher forces due to alterations in runners' movements, and therefore place runners at an increased risk of experiencing injuries. That critical appraisal I mentioned before also revealed 2 studies that found forces to be higher when test subjects ran in maximalist running shoes as compared to when they ran in traditional ones. It's possible runners are taking advantage of the extra cushioning by striking the ground harder while they run, which may offset the initial benefits of the extra cushioning, leading to higher forces and consequently higher injury rates. Some evidence also suggests that finding the optimal shoe type is an individualistic process, and as such, claiming that maximalist shoes are better for everyone may be an inaccurate generalization. A preliminary investigation in 2015 found that the adoption of maximalist running shoes varies between people, with researchers noting that one participant experienced no change in their biomechanical forces, while another experienced a significant increase in forces after switching to maximalist shoes. This data indicates that there might not be a single optimal shoe type that leads to a decrease in forces experienced while running for everyone. Admittedly, this is just a preliminary investigation, but it does suggest that it may be flawed to say that maximalist running shoes reduce the force that all runners experience. Clearly, there's not enough evidence to say that maximalist shoes reduce the force that runners experience and their risk of developing injuries. In fact, the opposite might be true. Maximalist running shoes may lead to higher forces and injury risks. When I'm not making videos on YouTube, I actually work in a shoe store, and sometimes people ask me for shoe recommendations. I think the best advice I can give is just to try shoes out. Walk around in them for a bit in the store before you buy them, and after you buy them, wear them a little around the house to see if they're actually comfortable. Our feet and use case for shoes are going to be different from one another's, so it's near impossible to make a universal recommendation. What I will say, though, is that the evidence we do have, although limited, doesn't really inspire confidence in maximalist shoes, and given that they often come with some pretty hefty price tags, your money would probably be better spent elsewhere.